coders, what's up? Chris here with the next lesson in the Star Wars Soundboard app. In the previous lesson, we had laid out this user interface. We had included the sound files into our project, these WAV files that you see here. And today we're going to go into the viewcontroller.swift and we're going to hook up the sound players and hook up the button tap so that when they choose a sound from the UI, we are going to be playing the sound that they chose. So first of all, we're going to need to add an additional framework in order to use the AVAudioPlayer class. So click this root node here in your file navigator, scroll all the way down to linked frameworks and library, click this little plus icon and search for AV, and that should be enough to bring up AVFoundation framework. So you're going to want to highlight that and click add or just double click it. Okay, so then you're going to see it appear right here in your file navigator. Go back to view controller and at the top underneath import UI kit, type in import AVFoundation. So now we're going to be able to use the AVAudioPlayer class. In between here, let's create some properties. We're going to say let sound file names equals, and this is going to be an array of all of the sound file names that we have. So we have 4, so I'm just going to create 4 empty strings like that. And inside there, I'm going to fill in the file name of the actual sound file, but without the extension. And you're going to see why in a second. So there's Chewy Roar, there's Lightsaber. So some of the file names have a dash and some of them have an underscore. If your sounds aren't playing, just double check that you've got the file names correct. And the last one I have is SWVader02. You can also rename these files before you add them into your project. Okay, so now we've got an array of sounds. Next, let's create an array of audio players because we need an audio player for each sound. So we're going to say let audio players equals, and this is going to be an array of AVAudioPlayer. Here we're creating an empty array that is going to store AVAudioPlayer objects. Right now it doesn't have any objects inside. If you're confused about what arrays are, I would advise you to check out the Start Here beginner series first and go through those lessons, and you're going to learn all about kind of the basics that you need in order to complete this demo. So what's our strategy here? What I'm going to do is I'm going to create an AVAudioPlayer for each of these sounds here, and I'm going to add them into this audio players array. So blaster firing is going to be at index 0 of the array, Chewy Roar is going to be at index 1, Lightsaber is going to be at index 2, and Vader is going to be at index 3. So we're going to go back to the storyboard for a second. I just want to double check the ordering I've got. So the first button I've got is Lightsaber, Blaster Firing, Chewy Roar, and Darth Vader. I'm going to want to make sure that in my view controller, the sound file names are in the same order. So here I kind of have a different order. All I have to do is move this Lightsaber sound to the front, and then I've got the same order: Lightsaber, Blaster, Chewy, and Vader. Right, Lightsaber, Blaster, Chewy, and Vader. And the reason we want it in the same order is because when they click the button, I'm going to take a look at which order it's in. So Lightsaber is the first button that they tap. I'm going to be grabbing the first element or the first audio player in the array. And if they click, say, the third button, I'm going to grab the third file, the third sound, which is going to correspond right here. So I'm going to want to make sure it's in the same order. So now let's set up the audio players. So let's set up a for loop first for sound in sound file names, and this is going to go through each of the sound file names in this array, and we're going to want to do that because we need to create an audio player for each sound. So let audio player equals AVAudioPlayer, and we're going to use this initializer method called contents of URL. So we're going to need to create a URL that points to that file within our app. And also note that this keyword throws, we're going to get to that in a second. So let's create our URL up here first. Let URL equals NSURL, and there's an initializer for that called file URL with path. That's this one right here. And we're going to need to get a path to that sound file, and we can do that by typing nsbundle.mainBundle.file.path, for resource, and we're going to use this one right here, path for resource. We pass in the name of the resource, the type of the resource, and it's going to give us an optional string back. Now, what is this bundle thing? Well, the bundle describes the app package. Once you compile your app, you build it, it turns into an app package that includes the sounds inside. So that's what that bundle is, and we're going to need to get the path to that sound file inside that bundle. So here, let's pass in the name. Well, the name is just going to be sound, right? Because it's looping through each of the sound file names in the array. So we can just pass in whatever sound we're currently looking at. And the type is going to be wave. You don't need the dot. And we're going to add an exclamation mark because this returns an optional string. Now remember before in lesson 2, I said download all of the sound files of the same format, and this is the reason why, because it's going to let us easily loop through all of the sound file names because they're all WAV files, and so we don't need to worry about whether one of them is an MP3 or something like that. Okay, so now we should be okay with this URL here. We're going to pass that URL into here, into this AVAudioPlayer. Remember when I showed you this contents of URL initializer? There was that keyword throws. Well, what that means is that it's going to try to create the AVAudioPlayer with this URL, and if it can't, it's going to throw an error. So what we need to do is catch that error in case it happens, in case it can't create that AVAudioPlayer. So the way we do that is we use something called the do catch block. So inside this do part, we try to do something. So let's put that code in here. We're going to try to do something. And then if it throws an error, it's going to go into this catch block. So catch the error that is thrown. And up here, try to do something. And this only applies if a method throws, like it has that keyword. And when it does, you have to add this try keyword here. So it's going to try to create that AVAudioPlayer with that URL. If it's successful, then that's fine. If it's not successful, it's going to throw an error and it's going to come down into here. So let's say it's successful. What we're going to do is go audioplayers.append audio player, right? We're going to add this audio player into our audio players array. So here it's saying that there's a problem. Let's see what that is. Cannot use mutating member is a let constant. Okay, so we're gonna want to change this to var because let is a constant, so var is gonna allow us to append things into that array. Now, if it wasn't able to create the audio player, we still want to add an empty audio player into the array. And the reason for that is because we don't want to mess up the ordering. So let's say it fails to create the audio player for blaster firing. We're going to add an empty audio player in its place so that when the user clicks blaster firing, it's not going to play Chewy Roar. It's going to try to play an empty AVAudioPlayer and nothing is going to happen. Okay, so that's basically it for creating the audio players. And now all we have to do is hook up the button here, all of these buttons, to a button tap handler. So I just opened up Assistant Editor by clicking this button here. The view is kind of small here, so what I'm going to do is just do it from this document outline. So make sure on the right hand side you're looking at the view controller.swift. If you're not, you can click this right here and scroll down to automatic and then choose view controller. So first I'm going to highlight lightsaber, hold down control. I'm going to drag this over here just underneath here, but before this last curly bracket. Okay, because I'm going to create a method, and I'm going to choose action instead of outlet. Make sure you do that. So let's call this button tapped. Type is going to be UI button, and touch up inside is the correct event we want to handle. So connect. So what happened now is that whenever the user taps on lightsaber, this button tapped method is going to fire. But I also want all of the rest of the buttons to also fire the same method when it's tapped. So what I'm going to do is click the blaster firing button. I'm going to right click, or you can hold down control and left click, and then go to touch up inside, not touch drag inside, make sure you got touch up inside, and go over to the circle. Just, you can single click it, left click it, and just drag a blue line up to the view controller. It's gonna show you the method which you can hook it up to. So there, I've hooked up the blaster fire button to this method that we created. Now let's do the same thing for these guys. Chewy roar, touch up inside, drag it there, choose this method. Sometimes it's a little finicky because that menu is a little small. See, I didn't do it, so make sure that this is really finicky. Okay, so make sure it's connected like that. Do the same thing with this last one here. Okay, so now all 4 buttons are hooked up to this same method. Let's go back to the single view. Let's go to the view controller, and in here, let's get the tag, or rather get the audio player that corresponds to the button that they tapped. And what we're going to do is let audio player equals, so our array of audio players. And what index do we want? Well, we want the sender dot tag. Remember, the tag we customized in the main storyboard. This has a tag of 0, tag of 1, tag of 2, tag of 3. So depending on which button they tapped, we're going to be able to get that tag here, and we're passing that tag value into the array of audio players. So it's going to return us the corresponding audio players, and then all we have to do down here is type in audio player dot play, like that. Okay, so now let's run it and let's try to play the sounds. Oh, so that's an error. These two are the same. Oh, actually all of them are the same. I must not have modified the tags. I thought I did. So let's go back to the storyboard. Under blaster firing, so lightsaber, if we check the tag value, it's 0. Blaster firing, the tag value, we should change that to 1. Chewy roar, change that to 2. Darth Vader, change the tag to 3. So sorry about that. I thought we had done that. And now, whenever I tap any of these buttons, the corresponding tag will be sent to that tap method, and it will grab the correct audio player. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So that was easy, right? In the next lesson, we're going to theme this app a little bit. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe and like the video, and please share it with any Star Wars fans that you know of. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.